Welcome everybody to another episode of the Whole You podcast. Today I have my good friend Rachel here. I'm so excited to chat with you and dive into this really powerful topic that I know a lot of women and individuals in relationships in particular struggle with, even people out of relationships and maybe newly single individuals as well, like myself. And that is codependency and kind of that need for or searching for what you desire or what you need outside of you, when in reality, everything you need is within. And it is important to have a partner who aligns with your values and treats you well and, fulfills your needs only to the degree, like in the aspects that maybe you can't for yourself, or your partner basically can't be everything for you. And that's like the overarching message is, your partner cannot be everything. And like a lot of the times the things we search for outside of us are the things that we need to be giving ourselves more. You know what I mean? So all the juicy stuff. So you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Rachel. I am a nutritionist and a yoga teacher and a wellness coach and a founder of my brand, The Full Life. And I'm really passionate about helping women live a full life and become the highest, fullest expression of themselves. And
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for being here. And let's just like dive right into the topic. I feel like we have a lot of conversations about this. And I recently just parted ways with my long-term relationship I was in for the last 4 years. We both were in long-term relationships for quite some time. And I know we both had some similar struggles within our relationships and just some similar realizations too, in regards to that feeling of like needing more from our partner consistently, like this feeling of like always needing more or feeling like there's not enough from them, you know what I mean? And I realized, like with conversations with other friends and with clients and just in general, that's a really common thing. And I feel like the root of it, again, kind of stems back to like not only your relationship with yourself, but too just these like expectations that are like portrayed everywhere of like the perfect boyfriend and like, oh, you're going to have like Prince Charming come and save you from your castle and like, like all of these media stories everywhere about just like having this quote unquote perfect boyfriend. And I feel like it really can stray us in a not so healthy direction when it comes to relationships. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so toxic, especially with like TikTok. I think that's the number one. I just tell everyone, I'm like, just delete TikTok. It's just, and I actually was listening to a podcast the other day. It's called like the Anxious Relationship Podcast, something like that. I forget the exact name, but she said something really smart. She's like, most of these videos of like influencers or TikTokers that blow up about relationships or like giving you relationship advice, they're usually like 20-year-olds who are maybe with their partner for like 6 months or a year, and it's still like that honeymoon phase, and they're giving you advice based on that. And that's like what we tend to listen to. But it's like, if you're in a long-term relationship, it's like, are you going to take advice from someone like that or someone that's been married for like 30 years and like can really give you advice? And usually those people are not on TikTok. But
exactly. TikTok is just not the place for advice. I would
say, just putting that out there.
It's a very mixed bag of like information. Like there's so many different people from all over the world on TikTok, and like it can definitely be I wouldn't say a beneficial place. I mean, like, there could be like mixed arguments about that, but
for sure,
overall it can be it's chaotic. It's like mixed with all of these opinions. And that's the thing, is a lot of this is just opinionated, right?
Yeah.
Like the truth is, I feel like humans don't actually know really anything. Like there's
It's
no
true.
like we're literally basing everything that we consider facts off of experience and like trial and error over time, right? So it's like a lot of the stuff that we're learning we can just take as like facts, like factual information. And I know that's like kind of part of me and like my personality type is I am very, I should say, gullible. Like if somebody tells me something and they're very like, you could hear the truth behind their voice. I'm like, oh, okay. And I like internalize that. So that's something that I've personally been working through is kind of having that discernment and like knowing my values and like my truth and really standing like rooted in that and what leads me to being a quote unquote good human or just better human, better version of myself and live my life the way I want to. And then it's easier to kind of like sift through information that you hear and not just like internalize all of it as your own truth. Because I know, especially like as a woman, I feel like the more I tap into my feminine essence, it's really easy to just like, okay, show me the way, you know, and not really like have your own truth and guidance, like guide yourself and your own structure. And so it's so important, especially as a woman, to kind of have your own truth and be rooted in that truth and not just always follow maybe more of like the masculine, firm, like this is how it is way of going about life. So I think I know I was personally like programmed that at a really young age, I feel like, was like, just listen, like this is how it is. This is the way we do things. Like go to school, listen to your teachers, listen to this preacher and this guy. And it's like, wait a second, you know, it's just like this following game from a really young age. I feel like this is a completely different topic than what we were talking about, so I could talk about that forever. But either way, just being rooted in your truth and coming back to your values and your truth and who you are, I feel like you're able to have that discernment when it comes to maybe intaking information, especially in regards to like relationships and how you want to go about relationships and things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I also think, like you said, there is no truth. There's just our truth, and everyone has their own truth. And I think even if you know your truth, like intaking so much information from social media and other people can like confuse that. I just don't think we're meant to have all of this constant information. Like I don't think we're supposed to know what Sally in Florida, who we've never met, thinks about relationships. Like it's not normal. And I think we forget that these people online are just people just like us. They're usually not experts, and even experts, their opinion can be different than what is true for us. So I think just having boundaries with social media is so important, because like you can be so firm in your truth, but it's like at the end of the day, if you're just constantly being bombarded with information, it can throw you off regardless. And it's not, I don't think it's normal. I really don't.
Normal.
It's not normal.
Yeah, it's not normal. Honestly, and I hope, well, I don't know if it's ever going to get better per se. I hope there's some sort of like wake up call though, where it's like, hold on a second, there's like too much information just being thrown around, you know, like with social media and TV and all this stuff. Like I almost hope that our society takes a step back from all of this media and technology, but it seems like it's just getting worse.
I feel like it's getting worse.
So I'm like, yeah. But personally, like what's helped me is taking those breaks and me consciously making that decision to be like, I'm going to take a week to like not be on social media and just be in my own thoughts, my own energy, my own truth, and really like asking myself the hard questions of like, what do I believe? Like, what's my actual truth? Regardless of what everybody else thinks, even the close people in my life, you know?
For sure.
Because not only is it easy to be influenced by people in the media, but like especially people close in your life, you know, it can be so easy to just get caught up in like living the way they live or being the way they are and thinking the way they do. And it's so important to always be rooted in your truth, you know, because I feel like that guides you, you know, when you're aligned with your truth, your true essence, your true nature, and like kind of having these principles that you live by regardless. You're not going to just be like thrown around all the time. in your beliefs and how you live and things like that. You can more so just be rooted. And when people come into your life that aren't aligned with that, it's not about just like pushing them out and just being like, okay, I don't care about what you have to say or anything. There can definitely be like an unhealthy way to go about that. But it's more so just being rooted in your truth and not being swayed by everybody else's opinions and like ways of going about life around you, you know? You can kind of have those internal boundaries with yourself, you know?
And that's what's so beautiful about being female is that we have that inner guidance and we're able to tap into it so much more easily than men.
So true. So true. Yeah. Our intuition, it's such a gift.
It really is.
Like, it's such a gift. And it's beautiful how we're able to just like know. We have this like inner guidance system. And like, not only is it important to be rooted in your truth, but believing in your truth and actually trusting your truth. Because there's like a layer there that, you know, you can have your truth, but not actually align yourself with that and like believe that this is for you. You know, it's like there has to be this trust in yourself as well. And I feel like when we have trust in ourselves, that shows up in literally every aspect of life, right? Especially our relationships though, because our relationships are literally just a mirror of our relationship with ourselves. And so if we don't fully trust ourselves, of course we're not going to trust our partner. Of course we're not going to trust our friends. Of course we're going to have trust issues everywhere because we don't even trust our gut and what we're telling ourselves. So of course we're going to be second guessing what everybody else are telling us too, because again, it's all just this mirror of what's going on inside. And our intuition is so powerful when we actually listen to it. Because it can be there, we just keep ignoring it. Trust me, I've definitely ignored mine. And I just recently like followed something that I've been intuitive about for some time. And I realized through this season of actually listening wholeheartedly to my intuition and not ignoring any piece of it, that I'm never going back. I'm listening to my intuition no matter what for the rest of my life, and nothing can stop me.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
So how did you learn how to tap into your intuition more?
So how I tapped into my intuition, honestly, was coming back to my feminine essence and truly starting to embody my feminine essence. Because like you said, as women, we have this ability that's a lot stronger than masculine, than men, right? And I actually lived mostly in my wounded masculine for most of my life. So I was completely detached from my intuition. Like, it was there, but I was so mistrusting. Like, that's a really big core component of like being in your wounded masculine, is like this mistrust. Like, always just like not trusting, even when it comes to other people. And yeah, I had such a mistrust in myself, in God, the universe, life, that I kind of just followed. Like, I was just following, like I was saying before, I was just following everybody else around me, like what was right and what worked, and society and all these things. And it wasn't until I started to wake up to that truth of like, whoa, I haven't been living for me. I've been living for everybody else, and I haven't been aligning myself with my truth. It was like this huge wake-up call that hurt. It hurt really bad. And it kind of shoved me into my feminine. Because I was like, well, like, I don't want to be living like this anymore. Like, this is not my truth. This isn't me. And so it kind of was this harsh, like, but I'm so glad it happened. So glad it happened. Where I was thrown into the feminine and really just like started to embrace my feminine essence and express and live and be intuitive and trust and tap into my body. Because our intuition is very much so like connected to the signals our body gives us. And it's our body, like our body language, our body has all of these ways of communicating with us. And for me, it's like my solar plexus. Like that is where everything happens. I feel like I'm just like, that is my center of my intuition. It's like that gut feeling. And you know, you can call it listening to your heart, listening to your gut. It's kind of the same thing. I started actually listening to my gut and my heart and like following that, actually following through, because you can hear it if you don't follow through. And that's kind of where the healthy masculine comes in, of like taking action and actually doing the work, you know? And so, yeah, I would say just actually starting to trust that truth and that inner guidance, that inner wisdom that has always been there my entire life. It just was actually following through with it and like aligning myself with that and starting to make these changes in my life that weren't easy. I mean, no change is ever easy, right? But I feel these shifts that my intuition were guiding me to were like, whoa, you're wanting me to change my whole life around here, girl. Like, what? This is a lot. But then I did. And like, I have no regrets. Everything since starting to listen to my intuition has been better than I could ever imagine when I was in this more like controlling, hyper wounded masculine state of always trying to keep things the same and control everything. My feminine came in and was like, hey, like it's a very quiet voice of like, do this. Start to make these shifts. This is what's going to make you happier. This is what's going to, this is what life is about. And it's like this quiet, like soft voice that's like slow. Like you can take your time. You don't have to like rush about this. You know, it's not a quick, urgent like need. I feel like your intuition is more like, take your time. Here's this. Here's this. Do what you want with it. But just slow down a little bit. You know, don't stress out. And your ego is more like, do it, do it, do it. Like urgent, like screaming at you. And it's like being able to have that discernment between your ego, like just your mind wanting to like control and like, you know, it's more of like a, I want to say self-centered, but like it's not thinking about the greater good of all and yourself. It's more so like just what's safe or like what fits in that box of like what you currently know. You know, it's kind of trying to keep you still in that known. Whereas a lot of the time your heart and your soul are like literally want what's best for you. And sometimes what's best for you is also what's hardest for you. Yeah. You know, because that's what's going to lead you to the most growth and evolution a lot of the time is the things that are like, wait, what? You want me to do what? So listening to that regardless. And like I said, taking your time, you know, there's no rush. There's no rush. I feel like, it's going to be these little whispers of your heart that just continue to come up, and you'll know when you're ready to just fully, which I mean, your ego can try and convince you that you're not ready 1,000 times, but
eventually you will be.
Eventually you will be. Yeah. And it's just about taking that aligned action, you know, as well. But what about you? How do you feel like you've tapped into your intuition? Like when was a time that you like really tapped in and listened to that gut feeling?
Yeah, definitely back in 2018 when I went through like my first big, really painful breakup. I realized that I was always so disconnected from my intuition. I didn't even think that I had one. I was like, people have an intuition. I don't. Like, what is that? And finally I just knew. I was like, I need to change my life. Like I am not happy and something needs to change. I can't keep being like codependent on somebody else. I can't keep choosing so poorly for myself and treating myself like shit. Like something has to change. And I actually started off by taking a course with somebody. It was literally like a 3-week course of how to tap into your intuition. And it helped me so much. And I was like, oh my God, I have an intuition. And that just like helped me trust and keep going on that journey of listening to my intuition. And I think it's just, there were so many things that I had to do. And I think it's a constant journey of learning how to trust my intuition. Because there's so many things that can disrupt that. Like even if you have that strong connection with yourself, you can go through something really traumatic again that just throws you off course and makes it hard to trust and listen. But I think it's the more that you commit to yourself and the more your actions reflect that, the more you actually follow through with what you commit to, the easier it gets to trust yourself and tune in.
True that. True that.
Yeah.
Staying committed to you. Like, that's so huge. And yeah, I relate so wholeheartedly. Like, I feel like for me, I was definitely disconnected from myself. I was so not committed to myself, like, my entire life. And it actually led me to, that's what led me to trying to seek this like external validation and void filler, essentially, through men, relationships. Because I've actually been in a relationship up until 2 weeks ago, since I was 13, like,
That's
back to
wild.
back. Like, I was a serial monogamist, like literally always in a relationship. And it was always, I had 2 really long-term relationships. My last one was 4 years, and the one before that was long-term, was 3 years. And like in between, I had boyfriends. Like, I was never single entirely, like, ever. And it wasn't until this last year, really, that I recognized that pattern. And I really started to question myself, like, am I okay with being alone? Am I committed to myself, or am I trying to like search for something outside of me to constantly make me feel okay and enough and validated and loved? And I realized that, you know, I had been doing that, and I had kind of uncovered these patterns in other aspects of my life, like my business, with money, with my body image, my eating disorders. There were so many ways that I was trying to like prove myself that I was enough and that I was lovable and that I was worthy. And this was just another layer to it that I was like masking for so long. It was like this cushion that was like, okay, you don't have to go deeper and commit to yourself and your self-love journey and your acceptance in yourself, because you have him. He'll accept you. He'll love you. He'll support you. You don't need that. You don't need to do that. It was like this cushion I had subconsciously, because I was too afraid to just see myself and hear myself and love myself to the depths that I knew my soul needed. And that truth was hard, like really hard, because, you know, my partner that I recently broke up with, he was amazing. Like, he treated me so well, and I could cry. He was literally like the best boyfriend ever, you know? And he loved me so much that he taught me, I realized he taught me how. Like, he taught me how to love myself unconditionally. And he really showed me exactly that, you know? And I'm able to kind of turn all of this pain into purpose. As hard as it is, I know that like the lessons I learned from my relationship are literally just going to lead me into loving myself and accepting myself and having this appreciation for myself on this deeper level. And I have no regrets of any of the relationships I've been in, because like I said, I learned so much from each of them, and what I deserve and how I treat myself, right? And then for future relationships, how I want to be treated in the future, right? And I know that coming back to this place of wholeness and committedness to myself entirely, to where I can love myself to the depth that I want somebody else to love me, committing to that singleness, being entirely single for who knows how long, which is really scary for me, because again, it's so unknown, something I've never known. I know that the next relationship I come into union with will be so powerful, because the foundation is there. And that's kind of the whole basis of this conversation, I feel like, is like, you know, when you have that foundation from within, and you know you're enough, and you love yourself, and you know you're worthy, coming into a relationship, and like that's an ever going journey of just continuing to strengthen that, right? Like, it's not like you just get to this place of like, oh, I love myself and there's no more work to be done, like, you know, it's like it's this ongoing journey, just like a relationship, right? You're continuously strengthening your relationship over time. It doesn't just like plateau. Same thing with yourself. You're continuously strengthening this relationship with yourself over time. So like you also don't have to, because this can definitely be taken in like a, you need to be quote unquote perfect in order to be in a relationship. By all means, you will never be perfect.
Yeah.
I think overall, having this foundation from within of loving yourself, accepting yourself, seeing yourself, hearing yourself, going into a relationship, it's going to be that much healthier and that much more sustainable. And you're not going to be constantly needing this external validation from your partner and feeling that you need anything outside of you.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this all the time, but I've been there too with my last relationship. And when it ended, I was like, I know that something within me needs to change if I want things to be done differently. And I felt the same way. And I was like, it was a little bit obviously different circumstances. Like my ex was very toxic and abusive. But I still was like, I need to learn how to love myself, or I'm going to keep attracting the same kind of man. And I just never want to feel this way again. Because, like, when we broke up, I felt like my world was ending. I felt like I was dying. And I was like, I never want to feel this way again. I never want another person to make me feel like I can't live without them and I need them to be happy or to feel important or whatever it is. And I really committed. I was like, I'm going to commit to being single, to not dating anybody, to being alone. And I need to learn how to feel whole from within. And like you said, like the journey of loving yourself is a forever one. But I just needed that foundation of feeling whole. And not just within myself, but it was during that time too when I strengthened my relationship with God. And I was like, knowing that I'm always protected no matter what, and that I'm always being guided and I'm always going to be okay, really saved my life. And just having that and knowing like I'm never going to give that power to another person again, because they're just a mirror. And I think that's what we do. And I think society keeps like perpetuating that belief system in all of us of like, this person, there's going to be a person that comes along who's the one, who's going to save you, who's going to be perfect and treat you like a queen and whatever. And it's like, of course your partner should treat you well and love you and respect you, but there's never going to be this person that's going to come and make you happy and just like complete you. That's a lie and it's bullshit.
Literally.
And it's like the only person that you should be looking for, the one, is you. And that's what it's all about. And relationships are a mirror of that. And they're always bringing you closer to yourself. And of course, like, I would never wish a toxic or abusive or unhealthy relationship onto anyone. But even within those relationships, it's showing you how much you're not loving and respecting and accepting yourself. And I had to learn that the hard way. And I was like, well, this person is showing me that I clearly do not love myself and I don't respect myself, or else I wouldn't be in this situation. I would have left a long time ago. And the same goes for healthy relationships. Your partner can be treating you so well and can be so loving, and you can have such a healthy relationship, but they're still going to trigger the fuck out of you. They're still going to mirror shit back to you. They're still going to mirror what still needs to be done within you and how you're not showing up for yourself and how you're not loving yourself. And that can change. It's always going to change. Like I was at a place where I loved myself so much and was genuinely so happy being single when I met my now partner. And, I was always so sure in myself, like when we came together, and he was so sure and confident in himself. And I feel like that's why it works so well. But there's still, we've been together for almost 4 years. And within that, there's been times where I didn't love myself. And not that I didn't love myself, I never went back. It's just a different process that you go through growing. And I've realized too, like I'm always stepping into a new me. So it's like I have to learn how to have a relationship with the new me all the time because I'm always evolving.
Yeah.
And that process can be so painful. And it's like you're always going to have moments where you don't feel confident in yourself, you don't love yourself very much, or you don't like yourself. And your partner cannot do that work for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Yep. Yeah. That's so huge. Yes. Taking your partner off the freaking God pedestal. Your partner is not God.
Nope.
Like, that's so huge. Like, finding that, and you know, everybody goes about this differently in their beliefs and ways of going about their connection to the divine. You know, there's so many ways too. I feel like that's also another layer to that, is like, you know, we can search for this like guidance, especially as women. Like I was kind of talking about before, we search outside of us for like this security or guidance or protection or this like fulfillment, which I personally, like in my own beliefs, believe only God can provide.
Same.
And like strengthening my relationship with God has truly brought me back to this place of like, I'm okay. Like regardless of what anything, like if anything were to happen, literally even if I were to die, like I'm gonna be okay. And having that security, because I kind of feel that God is this, in my personal belief as well, is like a masculine energy of like protection and love. And being a woman in God's presence is just like so juicy and like safe and like, oh, it's so beautiful. I love being a woman.
Me too. I do too. It's the best.
Oh, it's so nice. And yeah, I feel like it's so important, especially for women, I've noticed, to have that like spirituality foundation where you're connecting to something greater than you. Yeah, it's such a like it literally lays the foundation, because when you're strengthening your relationship with God, you're also strengthening your relationship with yourself in so many ways, you know, so you're literally an extension of God. And when you love God, you also start to love yourself more. You start to trust yourself more when you start to trust God more. And it's like this hand-in-hand relationship, you know, that can really also bring you closer to wholeness in yourself. And yeah, I feel like you can't fully love and trust yourself if you're not also fully loving and trusting in God.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think in a way, women are supposed to lead in a relationship spiritually, and men are supposed to lead logically. And you know,
totally.
Yeah, so it's so beautiful. And even being in my relationship now, like it's always been this way since the beginning. When I think of it ending, like if one day we were to break up, I'm like, oh, I'll be okay. Like I genuinely feel like I'll be okay. I'm not just saying that like, oh, I'll be okay, like whatever. It's like this feeling, because I know I have that trust in myself and also in God. And I've been through so much in my life and have always come out of it better and stronger. And I've seen the proof of like, no matter what happens to me, I'm always going to be okay. And God is always guiding me and I'm protected. And I also know that like my worth does not come from being in a relationship. And you know, I'm also not in control of how long any of my relationships last or how long they're meant to last. Like that's all up to God, and it's all for the purpose of bringing me back to myself and closer to my purpose. And
exactly. Yeah, like you're literally in a love story with yourself. Like that's what this whole life is just like coming back to yourself in love, which you are love, over and over again. And that's like the whole basis of like the healing and spirituality journey in itself, is like love, right? And when we don't have this foundation of love from within, we're not able to radiate it outwards to the levels that we'd like to, right? It can be more so for our own personal gain or like superficial reasons, Whereas if we start with this foundation of like an overflowing cup of love, the amount of love in our life is just like insane. Like we came here to love. And so it's so important that we radiate that energy from within and create that energy from within so that we can not only attract it, but we can give, you know? And that's like a whole nother conversation in itself, like creating that love from within so you're able to actually receive and give love and open your heart. And like I feel like when you too, like another kind of introspective question is like, are you allowing yourself to fully be seen, heard, validated, loved, and accepted by yourself? Because if not, how does that show up in your other, like in your relationship, not only your partner, but even friendships and people in your life, you know? Because we're only able to show people ourselves at the level that we do for like ourselves, right? And then two, we're only able to love people to the depths that we love ourselves. And then we're only able to receive love to the depths that we receive love from ourselves. Totally. So it's like all this mirror. And that's why it always starts with you and like asking yourself these hard questions that are sometimes really hard to face, you know, but it's literally what's going to transform every interaction in your life and relationship in your life. And you're able to cultivate this love in everything you do when you start with the foundation of you. Yeah. You know? And yeah, it's beautiful. Like life is all about love. And I feel like in every philosophy, spiritual practice, all of it, it's always preached that God is love. You know, and I truly believe that. Like God is literally just this force of unconditional love that's teaching us how to love.
Like, really what it's all about.
Literally everything. It's all about love. At the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think like obviously this doesn't apply to abusive relationships at all.
Yeah.
But when you're in a healthy relationship, and I think, to be honest, I think this is why so many people nowadays are not able to find partnership and are like constantly alone, like on the other end of the spectrum of like people want partnership and they can't find it, and like relationships don't last as long, is I feel like for the same reason of not loving themselves. And when you don't fully love yourself and you're looking for that in your partner, you're constantly going to find things that are wrong. You're constantly going to be like, well, why aren't they doing this and doing this and doing this? They should be perfect. But it's like you're really just wanting that from within. And you keep trying to find it within other people, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like in both situations, it can be really, really toxic to just not have that relationship with yourself and foundation.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. And overall, yeah, like we were talking about, the foundation, like that's where it all starts. And knowing that the foundation is you, knowing that the foundation of your life is your truth, your values, what you want, right? It's so easy to just get caught up in looking for that, searching for the perfect guy who will come save you, and you know, searching for your answers through TikTok and Instagram and, oh, what do I want to do with my life? Let me go scroll and find what I want to do, or, you know, compare myself to other people, or just follow, right? And we've been so disconnected from our own truth and like our own heart and intuition that it can be so easy to just follow and stay disconnected. And like, again, the foundation is you. So just sitting with yourself and building that relationship with yourself and coming back to you, I feel like is the basis of it all. You know, not only relationships, but living life the way you want to. You know what I mean?
For sure. And the same, like you said, it goes for everything. Like career wise, if you're constantly feeling unworthy, you're going to keep chasing for worthiness and money or and
Mm-hmm.
more and more, and you're never going to be satisfied with where you are career wise. Same thing goes for friendships. You're going to constantly start fights with your friends and feel like, you know, none of them are enough, and just cut people off constantly. And or you're going to attract people that are really shitty and don't treat you well, and it just really reflects onto everything. It all comes back to you.
Yeah, that abundance from within, you know, and I know that that was the root of all of it for me. Like, I had this endless pit of lack my entire life, that led me to consistently searching outside of me, searching for, through my partner, through money, through these external ways of changing my body, and all of these things that were so superficial even, right? We can get so caught up in that again, we lose sight of who we actually are. But two, it's just this endless pattern that never ends, because when we're trying to create something, trying to fill that void from with, like, outside of us, that's what also leads to like addiction and like all of these patterns that are really hard to break, because they give you this quick spike of like, oh yeah, this is working, and then it's not. Oh, this is working, and then it's not. And that's like the same, even though I wasn't necessarily addicted to like substances of any kind, it was this addiction to all of these quick dopamine spikes outside of me that were never sustainable. They never led me to feeling whole from within or abundant, and that led me, like you said, to reflecting that lack into my partner and never feeling like he was enough, because I was trying to put him on this God pedestal and wanting him to fill this void that only I could fill.
Yeah.
And it wasn't healthy. It led him to not feeling enough. And like, if anything, it led me to kind of creating this toxicity until I started to recognize that pattern and be like, whoa, wait a second. This has nothing to do with him. This has everything to do with me.
Yeah.
Like, I need to go in and break this pattern that I've been repeating over and over and over again, and actually get to know myself and recognize that I am me and that's enough. I can create this abundance and love from within that, again, moving forward, the relationships that I attract will be coming from this place of wholeness, because I'll also attract a partner who's on that same, like you were saying earlier, we attract what we embody, right?
Sure.
The energy we embody. And so if we're embodying this energy of lack, we're only going to attract more lack. We're embodying this energy of love and abundance and peace from within, wholeness, we're going to attract more and more of that, right? And so nothing changes until your energy changes.
For sure. I agree 100%. I even see that like all the time within my relationship now. It's like when I am in a place in my life where I'm not happy, or maybe I'm not really taking care of myself the way that I should, or spending time with myself, it reflects on my partner. And my partner also is not, you know, showing up fully in the way that I want him to. And then when I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the time to tune inward, and I'm going to spend more time with myself and do the things that I know I need to do to take care of myself, like, it automatically reflects from my partner. And then my partner starts showing up the way that I wanted him to. And it's like, it really is never about them. It's always about you.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So I guess what would you, in your opinion, like if somebody listening to this is like, I don't know if I need to either go on this journey of being single and spending time alone to strengthen my relationship with myself, or am I in a relationship and I just need to strengthen my relationship with myself while being in this relationship instead of trying to run away?
Yeah. So this kind of goes back to searching for the answers outside of us, right? I, like, even in my coaching, I never give people the answer. I always answer their question with a question.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, like, you know, you know.
That's true.
And like we were talking about before, it's this intuition that has been there. It's been there, and it just keeps getting louder and louder over time, slowly. But what's your truth? Like actually tapping into that truth and allowing it to be fully seen and heard, and actually trusting that, because you can't mess up. Like I really don't feel that you can mess up in this life.
You can't.
Like we always make these decisions and choices that we always end up exactly where we need to be. Like yes, we can end up in really shitty situations that we're not fully in love with, right? Like I'm sure we all do at some point. They always end up teaching us something.
True.
If we allow it. So worst comes to worst, you listen to this gut feeling and you learn a huge lesson, and it really is hard, and like you end up in a situation that's not favorable, but you grow so much from it, right? So either way, like you're gonna be okay. And I think it's all about just trusting that gut feeling. And for me, what kind of led me to recognizing I wanted to be single was simply the fact that this intuition has been there for a year and a half now, and I've just been like, oh, but it's safer to stay in a relationship, like kind of evaluating your reasons for wanting to be single or wanting to be in a relationship, right? For me, all of the reasons I wanted to be in a relationship were very ego driven. So I was like, this is definitely from my ego. Like all the reasons I want to stay here are because of safety, and that's basically it. Just safety. I was like, this is safe. Oh, this is like comfortable. This is, you know, like I'd be fine just staying here my whole life, and like not, even though I knew there was so much fear, because a lot of the time our fear is actually kind of our compass. And like our fear also protects us from like bears and shit, right? So like sometimes your fear is like literally just protecting you. But overall, your fear a lot of the time on the other side of that fear is exactly what you need. And sometimes it's leaning into that fear and facing your fear. And what I've recognized is a lot of the time, like I said, what's behind my fears are exactly what I need. And like my fear kind of guides me now in my life, because I know that on the other side of that fear is love. It's like alchemizing your fear, because when there's fear there, when you know there's like fear over your intuition, because fear only comes from ego, right? It's your ego trying to protect you. And a lot of the time when we have these heart and soul nudges, like intuition, we have all of these reasons that start to pop up as to why we shouldn't do it, and like start to talk ourselves out of it. And it's all this fear starting to creep up. When in reality, the message was love. The message coming through was like guiding you closer to love and your truth. And the only thing holding you back was the mind, that fear. And so facing your fear, feeling the fear, and doing it anyway, you know, whether that be being in a relationship or whether that be being single, you know, it's really, I feel like that's a very introspective question, like asking yourself that question, because only you know the truth, you know? So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like overall, the overarching message is we always know. We always have our answers within. And like it's important to learn and like broaden our perspective, or you know, gain perspective from other people. Like people need people, we need other perspectives, and we need like I believe open-mindedness is a very great thing, to be open-minded to other perspectives and new ways of living, new ways of going about things. However, again, I feel like in order to truly do that in a healthy way, we have to be rooted in our truth and know our truth, and also have this foundation from within, so that when we're in relationships, when we're in friendships, when we're, you know, meeting new people, when we're just going about life and there's so much media and like information being thrown around, we can always have this like foundation of like who we are and what we value, so that we can kind of have that discernment and like boundaries with ourselves as to like what changes we do or don't want to make, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I also think just not taking life so seriously. I think that's like a big thing, is we take everything so seriously. And it's
Yep.
like when you kind of look at life as a game, like that's how I like to look at it. Because it's like I used to be terrified of making decisions. Like it used to paralyze me. I was like, I don't know if I should do this or do that, or like even the smallest things, like if I eat this for dinner, that for dinner, and I used to just be paralyzed by making decisions because I was like, well, what if I make the wrong one? And then I regret it. But it's like the truth is there is no wrong decision. Everything is just a learning experience, and this is just a game, and it doesn't matter what you choose or where you go next, you're always going to end up where you need to be.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing goes for if you're choosing to stay in a relationship or leave, just trusting that either way you're going to be okay. And I think, you know, from like another point of view, like from my perspective, after being in such an abusive relationship, it's really easy now being in my relationship to constantly question, like, am I making the right choice? Like, what if 5 years from now my partner suddenly decides to be like really abusive or mean to me or whatever? And I'm like constantly thinking of how to protect myself so that things don't go wrong again. And so for me, it would be so much easier to just be single because no one could hurt me and I would never have to go through that experience again. Yeah. But I think remembering that I can trust myself and that it's okay, and that no matter what, I'm going to be okay. And if things go wrong in 5 years, well, they go wrong and I go my separate way. And you know, like I figure it out and I don't have to have all of the answers and I can't predict my future. And I just have to not take things so seriously, honestly, and just see it as a big game. And you know, we're not meant to live a perfect life and know all of the answers and make the right decisions all of the time.
Literally.
You know, it's just a big game and we're just here to have fun and learn lessons and explore. And I think too, when you see life as a game, you don't put so much pressure on other people to be what it is that you want them to be or whatever. Because you're just like, well, you're just part of this big game that's leading me back to myself. And you're not my everything.
You're not my everything. Yeah. Literally, though, like taking people off the pedestals again, I feel like is such a huge thing. Like, nothing will save you. Nobody will save you other than yourself. You're the only one. And even when it comes to, you know, your relationship with God, like God, yes, God is there for you and God will protect you and God will always guide you where you need to go. There's a co-creation in that. It's not this like full like, okay, show me. Like, okay, I'm ready, take me there. Like, you gotta take some aligned action. It's a co-creating process, you know? And overall, everything you said, like, it starts with you. It really starts with you. And it's a perfect, I feel like we're both like kind of the different situations where like you're listening to, you're kind of facing your fear and like being in this relationship, even though it is uncomfortable, but you know it's what you need, right? And like I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I'm choosing this because I know this is what I need and I'm choosing being single. But yeah, it's like when you know something is pushing you to grow and evolve from a place of love, and when we're in this place of like fear and trying to protect ourselves in like fight or flight mode, and we're making decisions based off of that, that's when we get stuck in those like not so healthy like protection mechanisms and patterns of like void fillers and things of that nature. Whereas when we're following our heart and our love and what's guiding us to our involvement, even though a lot of the time, all the time, involvement is uncomfortable. It hurts too. There's some bumps. And but you can make it a fun game. Like eventually when you start to face your fear and you start to realize, oh my gosh, every time I feel fear and I face it, on the other side of that fear is exactly what I need. It's literally a game. It's literally a game. Like, what fear can I face today? What, thing can I overcome this week? What next step can I take this month, right? It's like, you can just constantly look forward and like be here now in this game that's not that serious and like make fun with it, you know? It's like we can make fun out of all of this.
Yeah.
As hard as it is, it's like it's not that serious.
Yeah.
Like play a little, you know? Just have fun with it. Oh.
Yeah, and it's like just take the little baby steps one day at a time. Like you don't have to leave the relationship or like move to a new city or do the really big thing. Like just do something small.
Something small.
And like I've always wanted to go to a concert by myself. I never have. I don't know why, but that's always been like on my bucket list of things. And the other day I just bought a ticket to a concert that I really want to go to that nobody wanted to go with me, and I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go by myself. And I just did it. So it like, you know, it doesn't have to be like these big things. And that's also helpful for your nervous system to not constantly be doing these big radical things.
Yeah, trust me. Yeah. Oh, that's so true. That's so true. Yeah, like little steps, and also not searching for things to fix or like searching for things constantly. Because I know that it's easy as you get into like the healing and involvement journey to like constantly looking for things.
That's
because
a big thing.
Yeah. And so just kind of being here now and integrating each step of the way, you know, I feel like integration is such an important piece, which integration is like the playtime and the fun time where you're integrating and you're like
living your life.
Literally living your life. Yeah. And like you said, we're constantly shifting into this new version of us when we're on this journey of involvement and growth. And, you know, it's so important to actually integrate that version of you and like be there with her and like fully embody her and allow her to live. She is new. It's like you're starting a new life. You know, totally. It's like let her live, you know? And yeah, that's so important. That's a really good point there of like just taking one step at a time. One step. It doesn't have to be the whole staircase in a day. You can just take one step. Take your time. You know, your soul. And this quote, like I don't even know where I heard this, but like your soul takes their time. You know, your soul always takes their time, whereas your ego is in this rush to always get to that next step, always get to the top of that staircase, always, you know, it's like your soul wants to just experience and live and take its time, and like it enjoys the journey of just life itself. This game that we're playing, it's playing the game, not just watching it.
I think that's like a perfect way to end it.
Yeah, for sure. We can probably talk forever.
We can.
Well, do you want to add anything else, or
I think we pretty much like covered everything. Like just always prioritize your relationship with you, because no matter what, that's the most important thing in life. And it's always changing, it's always evolving. For us, I feel like we change every 3 months, so it gets kind of overwhelming. But you know, just always taking the time to prioritize your relationship with yourself. No matter how busy you are, you always have time for you.
So true. It's all a reflection of you, and it starts with you. And such a beautiful conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Love you.
Love you too.
Well, cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. And this was a beautiful episode. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.